Hello and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with The Nature of Things, where we're realigning God, government, and natural law so that we might restore our American Republic. Please post your comments to be part of the narrative. In a Republican form of government, we, the people, decide what can and can't happen in our government. But when we, the people, stop paying attention to how our elected officials are behaving, things can get out of hand rather quickly. Here in Florida, the Republican Party has decided to govern in the same manner as the Democrats governed. And of course, the Democrats didn't govern democratically. They lined their pockets with special interest money. And now the Republicans do that and leave the citizens to believe, well, it's okay because, well, they're Republicans. Dark money seems to be able to sway the primary voters, forcing grassroots candidates to have a huge uphill battle to get noticed and especially elected. But the problem is twofold. It's first getting the primary voter to understand the importance of voting, but also how to sort through this dark money influencing in order to make a good choice. But there's another aspect of governing yourself, and it has to do with making your wishes known on specific legislation that's working their way through the legislative process. And the Republican Liberty Caucus and the Florida Republican Assembly have been in the forefront of getting legislative issues out to the public. But you have to sign up for their emails to get informed and to receive the tools needed to make that happen. So this morning, Mike and I are going to be talking about these two organizations and the whole idea of working with grassroots and volunteers. Good morning, Mike.
Morning, Chuck. Wow.
Yes.
I mean, you're a little open there. Really touched on a couple things that we need to talk about that we may not have planned to talk about. So
Okay.
I'm very interested in what you just said. So I'll let you drive.
Okay. Well, I guess I was basically going to talk a little bit about these grassroots organizations like the Florida Republican Assembly. They put out an action alert today. I didn't get a chance to read totally through it, but the whole idea of in your email box getting a little update on what is actually happening and how we can possibly impact on it. And so to get, not to get too far into this particular one, but to just whet the appetite of our listeners out there, I received in my inbox a call to action regarding Senator Bill Cassidy, who is stopping. We want them to. We want us to tell him to stop protecting big pharma, as different legislation is working through Washington. This Senator Cassidy seems to be obstructing the legitimate concerns, ignoring mounting evidence, and placing big pharma's interests above the well-being of the citizens that they were elected to preserve. And it goes on and it tells us what they feel Senator Cassidy is doing and what we can do to let Senator Cassidy know we're not really happy about that. And along with that, you have actual emails and X accounts that we can use to talk to Senator Cassidy and make our thoughts and our feelings known. And that is just so important if the average citizen wants to actually be empowered to impact on something other than just casting your vote every couple of years. Do you typically get things from FRA, or did you check out your email?
Yeah, I get everything from FRA. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I'm on their email list, so I get everything. I get probably, I don't know, but from all the different sources, I get probably 4 or 5 emails from FRA a day. So
Yeah.
I get all their stuff. But that's a big issue that you just took on, this whole thing with the pharma people, because what you just said is important and everything, but it's also, you have to understand that first of all, it's a federal issue that we're talking about. It's
Yes,
not a
yeah.
state issue. You and I typically talk about state stuff. But what's going on with Cassidy is a federal issue, point number one. Point number two, Cassidy is a doctor. So he is aligned with the medical community and has been for a long, 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 long time. Okay, number three, Cassidy was the biggest obstructor to getting RFK Jr. A nomination approved in the Senate because Cassidy believes that RFK Jr. is a vax obstructionist or
A
he did,
denier.
which
Yeah.
vax denier, yeah, and I am too. you know, so Robert Kennedy Jr. had to go out on a limb when he was doing his senatorial confirmation hearings and promised to do things that he didn't want to do. But he had a decision to make. Did he want to be the director of Health and Human Services or not? And if you don't tell these senators what they want to hear, then they won't vote for you, and then you won't be able to walk out your plan. And Robert Kennedy Jr. understands that making America healthy again is crucial to everything. And he had to bite the bullet a little bit to get confirmed. And now that he's doing the things that he knows he needs to do, Senator Cassidy's pushing back on him because of some of the promises he made when he was in his senatorial hearings. So, I'm, it's so interesting, Chuck, when we do these live streams that we really don't know. We assume that our audience is like-minded, but that's not always true.
That,
And there's lots and lots of shades of libertarianism and republicanism. So, I mean, I know a lot of good-hearted people who just believe that the American Medical Association would never tell them anything that's not good for them. And then you have to juxtapose that against what happened with the COVID. I mean, COVID was such a horrific event that it's just always the go-to when you want to talk about what the government is willing to do to you. So that's the point I'd like to make about that. Number one, Cassidy was, the number one person against RFK Jr. in his confirmation hearings. Cassidy's a doctor. Cassidy's a good friend of Big Pharma. And then you get the whole federal issue, which is not something that you and I typically address. But that's where we are. And it does affect Florida. And then you can get into the whole conversation about our Surgeon General Lapido here in Florida. And of course, Governor DeSantis is supporting removing all vaccine mandates from Florida, which I support, Chuck.
very good. Very, very good. Now, again, for our public out there, it's FloridaRepublicanAssembly.com. You can go and sign up for these emails. They come fairly regularly, especially during legislative session, and they're a little bit more local, a little bit more about state issues, but regularly you will get information of importance that the average citizen, if enough of us were willing to make our voices heard, we might very well turn the heads of our politicians. So we hit the Republican Liberty Caucus pretty hard on Tuesday. I thought I'd give the FRA a tip of the hat this morning. But the reality is, it's really all about us. It's about the average citizen and volunteers. Like you volunteer, I volunteer, and a lot of times sometimes we just don't get the tools we need to volunteer or to get the job done. You've just taken on a new level of volunteering with the RLC. What are the kinds of things that you wish that the Liberty Caucus would give you to help you get your job done?
Well, first of all, the things that I need to do my job as a regional director for the Republican Liberty Caucus are not hard to corral. So I'm going to get the things I need. Okay. Number one, of course, you've got to be able to communicate with your team. So I need a database, and I'm just going to ask the chairman for it, and I'm sure he'll give it to me. But But I'm going to go a little deeper than that, Chuck, because I want to talk a little bit about some other things that you said this morning. And number one, I think that we have a bad habit of looking at the business model for our political organizations and just assuming that if we always do what we've always done, then that's the best we can do. Because I don't think that's true at all. The grassroots has been losing since day one. And if we continue to do what we've always done, we will continue to lose. So the thing that's most important to me right now, which I've never spoken this to anybody except maybe you, I believe that these volunteers who give their soul to the cause of freedom and liberty should be compensated. I think that when we have FRA meetings and RLC meetings, because the FRA's got a political committee, and so does the RLC, but nobody pays our members to raise money. So a lot of our members need money. Our people don't have any money. That's why they can't get a grassroots candidate elected, because the big PCs, political committees, have tons of money, and they just bulldoze right over us. So I'm saying to you, if we could get, how many people would get involved in the Republican Liberty Caucus or the Florida Republican Assembly if they knew that they were going to get 25% of every dollar they raised for the political committee? That would be huge. And it's legal. People are bundling money all the time. Yes, the bookkeeping is going to get a little more complicated and the compliance is going to get a little bit more complicated. But when you take your political committee budget or assets and you raise it from $20,000 to $2 million, I would suggest that the compliance and accounting is worth it, Chuck.
There you go. Well, that's very, very interesting. I've never heard that before, although I have heard mumblings from you about it in the not so distant past. So you feel like that's something you'd like to bring to leadership and
Well, unfortunately, Chuck, as we've said over and over and again, you can't unsee it and you can't unhear it. So that means that I have to do it because it's in my soul now. And I will be advocating, or Chuck, to be honest with you, you and I should have a political committee, and we should do it for everybody, right? We should do it. We should help the Republican Liberty Caucus do it for their political committee. We should help the FRA do it for their political committee. And it might be a good idea for you and me to have a political committee because it's not that unusual. Every candidate should have one because it just really completely, if you're a candidate running for public office, and you open a political committee, all of those restrictions on donations disappear.
Yeah, right.
Because people can give as much money as they want to a political committee. The political committee can do whatever they want to with their money, as long as they're just put the disclaimer on the advertising showing who paid for it, then they can spend as much money as they want advocating for and against candidates and issues. So that's the name of the game, Chuck. And we need to wake up and use the same strategies and tactics that our opponents use to empower our organizations. And any individual can become an organization by simply opening a political committee and doing the compliance.
There you go.
So that's where we're at, Chuck. I mean, honestly, do you want to win this or not? Now, let me make one more point while I'm on a roll here.
Okay.
Because let me tell you something, Chuck. Human beings struggle because we feel like we're running on a hamster wheel, right? This is what the socialists want to avoid. Oh, you shouldn't have to wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and be at work at 6 and work until 5 and get home at 6 or 7 and then wake up in the morning and have to do it again. You don't have time for your family. You don't have time to live a great life. You don't have time for all of the wonderful life experiences the billionaires have. And we want to have those same life experiences because we're just as human as they are. And that's a legitimate argument, right?
I guess.
So the problem is, Chuck, like for example, I'm telling you that if I did everything I wanted to do, I would have a sit down with Diane Cornegay, the superintendent of schools in Lake County, Florida, and I would ask her, why are we not teaching high school students to trade stocks?
Well,
That's how you get off the wheel.
it might be a good idea for them to learn how to balance their checkbook first.
Well, look, everything is every business plan has a lot of components.
Sure.
And yes, kids need to learn to analyze, what makes businesses feasible and successful. Because look, Chuck, my point to you, let me make this point so I don't miss it. Okay. Because when the FRA and the RLC send out call to actions on legislative issues, that's 1 in 1,000 issues that we're going to be facing in each legislative session. That means we're running on the hamster wheel. We don't, and I would suggest, Chuck, that that's another another disruptor that we have to put into the way we manage these organizations. Is that even within the organization, there's a power struggle. So, we want to be elite within the organization, right? We want to be the guy standing at the podium at the Lincoln Reagan dinner. We want to be the guy standing at the podium at the Constitution Day dinner. And we want to be the guy at the podium at the FRA convention, et cetera, because it brings attention to ourselves. And in order to do that, that means you have to exclude other people. So my point to you is this, Chuck. With the RLC, I will be advocating that every single member of the RLC is assigned a specific legislator, Florida legislator. There's 120 state representatives in the House and 40 senators. That's 160, right? So if we have 500 members in the Republican Liberty Caucus, we should be able to put 3 members on each of those legislators, and all they do is follow the legislator, watch their sponsored bills. If you do that, you cover every single bill that gets sponsored, because no bill can be sponsored without a member.
Right.
My least favorite word, member. But if we take, so you follow me now, Chuck, right? Now you're empowering every single member of the Republican Liberty Caucus to track legislation, not just the legislative committee. And when the legislative committee gets narrowed down to 10 people, let's just say, now instead of having 3 members on each legislator, you've got 10 people trying to track 160 legislators. Well, that dog doesn't hunt.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're not adequately utilizing our resources. So this is a basic fundamental change to the business model, Chuck, of how you run a grassroots political organization. And I'll just kick it back over to you to see what you think about that, or whatever it is you'd like to talk about this morning.
Well, what you're talking about is making some major changes, and again, empowering people. And when you join any of these organizations, in my estimation, when I joined the Republican Liberty Caucus, was the first one that I joined, and I started getting these emails and just the idea of them filtering out certain legislation that really was important to me as a conservative, and informing me where it is and who I should be talking to make my voice heard. I felt incredibly, and still do feel incredibly empowered when you're able to, maybe one voice, but what the Liberty Caucus is doing is empowering each one of us, and we're collectively en masse impacting. You might ask, well, how much impact? I would guess that different legislation based on different responses will get different have different impact, but the idea of actually impacting on our government, that's really what we're called to do. That's what a Republican form of government is all about. It's government of the people, and we have to make at least as much noise as the special interests out there if we're going to get the attention of the people that we're pulling our lever for, or circling our bubble
Well,
for.
good luck with that.
Yeah, well,
Special interest has a lot of resources. You're talking about entire industries, right?
yeah, well,
So,
and
for example, the Realtor Association has 250,000 members in the state of Florida that all pay hefty dues.
yeah, well,
So that's what you're
and
competing with. They've
you're
got
talking about
teams of experts.
you're talking about the money.
That's what you're competing with.
You're talking about the
Real
money,
money.
but
No, no, no. The salaries.
we
The
have to be talking about
salaries.
votes. We have to be talking about votes. We the people have the votes.
So let me
And,
let me dig into what you said. Go ahead, finish up, and then I'll get into what you said. No, you're right. You're right. But the fact of the matter is, Chuck, we are enormously outgunned, right? I mean, think about the image that you just saw, right? You just saw a Venezuelan trendy agua little boat racing across the ocean with thousands of pounds of product coming from China. And then you watched us with a little, like on your X account, right? You're watching you're watching the targeting of that ship, and all of a sudden, boom, it's gone, as if it never existed. Well, that's what they do to us, right?
Yeah,
We send out a call to action, right? I'm going to get into it if you don't mind. So we get the call to action from the FRA, or the Republican Liberty Caucus, right? And let me just tell you from personal experience, right? I get the call to action, and I'm saying to you, of all the people who receive the call to action, I would love to know how many people actually respond, how many people actually make the phone call, write the letter, etc. And I'm saying to you, not very many do. So it feels good as an organization that you're putting all that out there. And yes, you're raising some awareness, and that could result in a little impact at the ballot box next time, which is very distant. And people typically have a short memory. Okay, and I won't get into that piece of it, right? But another thing that people feel, Chuck, and this is a leadership issue, like we've been talking about this morning before you came on camera. It's a leadership issue. So what exactly do your people face when you ask them to respond or weigh in on a legislative issue? And I'm just telling you that a lot of people say, if I write a letter to my state representative or my state senator, that office might call me and I might have to defend my point of view. And the fact of the matter is, I'm really not that solid on why I'm supporting the FRA or the RLC's position on this issue. I'm not educated enough to come against a state rep or a senator or a legislative aide who might respond and say, hey, give me a little more detail on this. Why are you either for or against this particular legislation? And a lot of people say, you know what, if I write the letter is one thing, but to get involved and have an ongoing conversation with your legislator is another. And that's time consuming. And I may not be capable of defending my point of view. Therefore, I'm not going to write the letter, Chuck. And that's real. That is the reality of it.
But the reality is all the way down the line. I mean, the reality is most of the electorate are not involved in the RLC or the FRA or any other organization. There's always a group of people, a minority, I would say, that would be involved. And the real question for us is not necessarily to give all the reasons why someone wouldn't, but to encourage them to. We really do need more people willing, and as far as I'm concerned, the FRA and the RLC gives you plenty of information as to why they're for or against a particular bill. I don't know how many hours these legislative aides call people back. I've never been called back. But I do feel very, very good when I take the time to click on an email and give them my particular point of view. My goal is to encourage more and more people to do that. And the reality is, it may be a hard road, and maybe an uphill climb, but you know, you and I, Mike, are doing things that are uphill climbs because
Oh yeah, no doubt.
there's nothing else we want to spend our time doing. And what we need to do is encourage others in that same direction.
Okay, well, let me give you another big giant disruption about the way we're doing business. Are you ready? You want me to
Okay,
solve this problem right now?
please do.
Yeah, it's very simple. Instead of going to a RLC meeting or an FRA meeting and standing in front of the group and being the celebrity, you know, the guy that makes your opening monologue and brings attention to yourself and gets on your high horse with all of your self-righteousness about all of these issues like abortion and open carry and all the things that Republicans love uh, to campaign about, advocate for, because it's you know, it just makes us so good, right? Right? When you come out and say, "Oh, abortion we should arrest people for murder who do abortions," but when your daughter gets pregnant by some kid you don't like down the street, now you have a come to Jesus moment. How interested are you really in arresting people who get abortions or perform abortions? That's just one example, Chuck. Okay. But here's the point. My point is that we do this for the wrong reason. We do this because we want to be celebrities in our community, not because we want to get something done. So let me explain to you how we get something done. Okay. You have an FRA meeting or you have an RLC meeting, and everybody brings their laptop. And you put the legislation on a computer screen and you read the legislation together. You study the legislation. If you're the chairman, you study the legislation before you get to the meeting and you kind of walk people through it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me walk you through this real quick so you don't have to spend the 2 or 3 or 4 hours reading this and studying it like I did before I came to the meeting. And I'm going to walk you through the things about this legislation that I am most concerned about. Let's see if you agree with me. And you walk the audience, your committee, your group, through the legislation, and they have their laptop there. And then you say, okay, based on what we just did, you construct your own letter. I'm going to give you some talking points that you can incorporate into your letter. But before we go home tonight, every single person in this room is going to have the letter written and is going to push the button on their computer to distribute the letter to your legislator, which is in your own words, in your own writing. And now when you walk out the door, because you studied this legislation with an entire group of like-minded people, you do understand why you support it or why you object to it. But that's not what we're doing, Chuck. You know, I mean, honestly, let's get Reclaim Florida involved. Okay? Because and I love Raj. You know, Raj Doraisamy is a great guy. I love the guy. He's articulate, he's a great marketer, etc. But he's also the center of attention. Leadership is not you or me trying to be the center of attention. Leadership is you and me trying to get something done. So if you do at your next RLC meeting or next FRA meeting what I just presented to you, you'll get something done. Okay. And people will walk out empowered because they learned something. They're a part of it. They're making a difference. They feel good about it. And they're going to want to do it again, Chuck.
Yeah, well, what you're doing is basically taking their their email and making it a little more alive. Your emails come in, they can come in every day, as you were saying, and sometimes more than once a day, whereas your monthly meeting is typically one point in the month. But I see what you're saying in regard to once you get people to the point where they really do feel like they know a piece of legislation, they may be also a little more comfortable when they're not totally confident that they know it, because as far as I'm concerned, the information that I get is very good, and I'm very capable of putting my background or my thoughts on governance along with the bits of information that they give me. So I see what you're saying. I'm still pretty content with what I get through these emails, and I trust that anyone else who would like to be empowered, they can go to FloridaRepublicanAssembly.com or RLCFL.org and sign up for these emails and be empowered. That kind of brings us to the end of our half hour. Mike, is
No way.
Yeah,
No way.
can you
Yeah, there is something else I need to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely something else I need to say. I got a
Okay.
couple more points, but I'll wrap. This is my close. Okay, Chuck? Number one, to all of the everybody out there, I would suggest, but certainly Republican Liberty Caucus members, I will be doing a video conference once a week in the evenings. And I invite you, and even if you're not a member of the Liberty Caucus, I invite you to come to the live stream anyway. And I invite you, of course, to join the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida. And, and we'll find a chapter for you. And if there's not a chapter in your area, we can create a chapter there or whatever the case might be. But we will definitely want you included. And I'm going to do a weekly video conference on Zoom or some other platform like that, but you'll get an invitation, easy to, join, just like we're doing now. Chuck and I are, basically broadcasting this through Zoom. But we're going to have a weekly meeting, point number one. And I guess hopefully David Wallace will be watching this video. I hope he does. And I just want to make the commitment to Chairman Wallace of the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida that I will be doing a weekly video conference that everyone's invited to. And we'll do some of the things that we talked about in this live stream this morning, point number one. And point number two, Chuck, is this, that we talk about 1,000 bills or however many bills get filed in the legislative session every year. But that is what, as I said before, that's like a hamster running on a wheel, trying to keep up with all of the craziness that's going on through the Florida legislature. In reality, Chuck, we have to change the philosophy of how we govern so we don't get this crap running through the Florida legislature. It can't be about politicians advancing their political careers. It's got to be about good governance. And we have to have a president of the Senate and a speaker of the House and a governor who believes in liberty and freedom like we do, and is not as interested in jamming their own political campaign strategy down the throats of every Floridian in the state of Florida, Chuck. And I'll give it back to you with that.
Well, I thank you, Mike, and thank you all for tuning in to our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook at Restoring Our American Republic, or check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic -ROAR. Please like and share the program, and remember, if you're unwilling to be governing yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. See you next time, and meanwhile, God bless you, God bless President Donald J. Trump, and God bless America.